You're listening to Living Free, your podcast for a life full of freedom and magic. I'm your host, Tanya Hirsch, and I hope that every time you listen, you feel a little bit more inspired to follow your intuition and to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. Welcome back, my loves, to the Living Free podcast. I'm so excited to dive so naked with you today on a topic that is so dear to my heart, that has changed my life, the way I feel in my body, the way I even show up in this world, how I'm able to share this work with you. And today I'm going to share the life-changing magic and power of Yoni Eggs. And maybe you're familiar with Yoni Eggs, maybe you have no idea what I'm talking about. I am sure if you listen, you want to get yours. And before we dive into the episode, I have a few announcements to make. First of all, if my work, my podcast has inspired you, if you enjoy listening to it, if it has changed your life, I would love to hear how. By you leaving a review on the Apple podcast. So I have a giveaway right now. If you share your testimonial from your heart on the Apple podcast, I put you in the pot with everyone joining, where you can win one of 5 spots for my closing 2022 ceremony on the 30th of December, where we go through the whole year and integrate the lessons and the blessings of the year to really move with integrity and excitement and abundance into the new year. I know 2022 has been a wild, crazy ride of a year. And if you don't take the time and ceremony and a ritual to close this year, you might take these patterns into the new year. So if you feel like you really want to close this chapter, you want to learn from the lessons, join us. It's a really deep experience, and you can win one of those spots by joining the giveaway. So you will find the description in the show notes. Just send me the review, send me a screenshot before you hit send on Instagram, via email, any way you can reach me, and I will personally put you in the pot where I draw you live from Mexico on the 12th of December. Also, the first prize is one home retreat of your choice. So just leave a review, send a screenshot to me, and I will add you. And I read every single podcast review, and I love hearing how this work and how my podcast has changed your life. So this is the first announcement, big giveaway. Join right now before you forget about it. The second announcement is that I'm going to guide a Yoni Egg initiation on the 20th of November. So I just shared a Yoni Egg initiation for 500 women for Rosie Reese inside her Golden Yoni membership. And honestly, this work makes me feel so in awe and so humble. And I'm so devoted to share the magic of this work. So if you listen to this and you feel like you want to experience the magic of the Yoni Egg practice in a group of women, which is mind-blowing and healing and out of this world, and it brings back the sacred remembrance that I'm going to dive into in today's episode, then you can sign up now. And if you have any questions, let me know. You will need your own Yoni Egg, and I'm teaming up with the Yoni Pleasure Palace, where you receive 10% off with the code Tanya. So you can go in the show notes, order your Yoni Egg. I recommend to start with the Black Obsidian to first clear out any blockages before you move into the upper chakras. So podcast giveaway, Yoni Egg initiation. And I'm also just letting you know how I'm feeling right now. It feels like a volcano is erupting at the moment inside of me. I feel like I'm growing and expanding to a capacity that's mind-blowing. It feels like quantum leaping. I'm hiring 4 women for my team. I've done almost everything on my own so far. I've outsourced my podcast editing in August, but other than that, I did everything on my own, and I'm ready to receive help to grow even further, and my intuition is so strong to get more women supporting my vision, because I feel this work is life-changing. If you move from victimhood into empowerment, to step into your feminine power, to connect to your sacred sensuality, to remember the light that you are, to release the fears, like this can literally change the world, and we need it more than ever before. So there's so many exciting things happening. I'm going to Central America very soon. In the end of November, I'm flying to Tulum, where I will join a plant medicine retreat. I will sit with Mama Ayahuasca again. I love her so much. She brings so much wisdom to me every time. I'm also, just enjoy the Tulum life. I will guide my soul-aligned journeys from there. And then I will immerse into the jungle of Costa Rica, where I will attend Nadine Lee's tantric leadership training. If you know Nadine, I've had her twice on the podcast. She's an amazing, powerful leader, healer, tantrika, and it's going to be an out of this world experience in the jungle. So you can join us there. There's a few spots left if you feel the calling to dive really deep. And now let's dive into the topic of the life-changing magic of the Yoni eggs. So what are Yoni eggs? Maybe you already have a practice, maybe you have a collection of Yoni eggs at home, but maybe you also think, what the hell are Yoni eggs? So I'm going to explain what they are, the benefits, how it can change your life, blow your mind, and bring back the sacred remembrance of who you truly are as a woman, a divine, feminine goddess and being. And so there are different kinds of Yoni eggs. Yoni eggs are basically crystal eggs that you put inside your yoni. And if you're not familiar with the word yoni, it's the Sanskrit word for your vagina. And it stands for sacred temple. And that's what it is. And that's also what this practice can bring back, the remembrance that your yoni is sacred, that only you hold power over your yoni, no one else. And you can connect back with her. If you lost touch to the connection to your womb, to the wisdom of your body, this can really bring back the remembrance. You can imagine every time you have intercourse with someone, you exchange energy. Especially as a woman, you're receptive, you absorb energy of your partner, not only liquids, body liquids, you also absorb trauma and emotional patterns, and you take on something that's not yours. And that's why clearing your womb space is so important and so powerful, especially if you want to step into your feminine power. So working with the Yoni egg is really amazing. To start with, I can recommend either the green jade egg or the black obsidian. I love to work with my women with the black obsidian because we can clear out these blockages. We can clear and release emotions that are stuck there. And only then I recommend to work with the rose quartz, for example. It has heart opening qualities where you can release barriers around your heart, but this can be overwhelming if you haven't released the trauma that's stored in your body. So there's a lot of crystals out there. There's a lot of different qualities, but the reason why I teamed up with Yoni Pleasure Palace is because they really take care of the quality of their crystals. So if you order a cheap Yoni egg from China, it might be a really low quality crystal, or even the way they polish it, they put products on it, and your yoni is very absorptive, so it soaks in everything, all the toxins from it, and you don't want that in your body. It can also happen that it's not really properly polished, and just make sure to invest in a really good egg. You're going to have it for a lifetime. This is a good investment. And like I shared, you can save 10% with the code Tanya if you decide to order it with Yoni Pleasure Palace. And I'm not going to share how to use it because this is what I'm sharing in my Yoni Egg initiations, the one you can join on November the 20th. That would explode this interview. But I would love to share with you my personal experience with that and why I love working with it and why I'm so passionate about it. So of course, there's a lot of physical benefits from working with the Yoni egg, and I'm sharing a little bit about it, but there's a lot to read about on the internet, especially if you had a baby. You can gain back your pelvic floor muscles. It's good if you have problems with urinating. The muscles can be very weak after giving birth. There's a lot of that, but that's not what I'm specialized in. I love working with the Yoni egg because you connect back to your Yoni through this practice. And this can be life-changing if you carry shame around your Yoni, if you carry stuck emotions in your womb, if you carry things that are not yours, if you've lost a connection to your intuition, to your inner voice. Because if you come back to your womb, to your Yoni, if you remember her sacredness with every cell of your being, not just from your mind, if you connect back to the wisdom of your body that your womb holds, she knows all the answers that you're longing for. She knows your yes and no. And if you connect back with her, no one can fuck with that. You become unfuckable with if you're connected to your womb and your Yoni and the wisdom of your body, and you're aligning your life around that. No one will be able to tell you what's right or wrong for you. Only you know your truth. And that's what this practice does. It brings you back into your truth of who you truly are, of what you desire, not what's expected of you, of what someone wants you to do. And especially if you've been into an emotional abusive relationship with a narcissist, you know that this can be taken away from us if you're not connected to your truth. So this was so healing and life-changing when I finally connected back to my Yoni, to the wisdom of my body. I got anchored in who I am and what's true for me, what I deserve, what my standards are, what I desire, to draw that in, to come back into wholeness, into my magnetism. So it's not just about putting a crystal egg into our bodies, especially in the spaces where we come in sacred sisterhood and we open the space for our sacred sensuality. This is where true healing can happen and generational trauma can be released. Because you were already carried in the womb of your grandmother. This is something that blows my mind, and science has proven that. The eggs in your mother's womb were already created in your grandmother's womb, which means you are part of your lineage, of the woman lineage behind you. And back in the days, most of our lineages didn't have the wisdom and the power to really proudly embody our sensuality. There was so much shame, so much taken away from us. That is our natural essence. So when you go back in time, there was a time thousands of years ago where our feminine essence was sacred, where our sensuality was sacred, where our sexuality was sacred, where we were being worshipped, where men came to us for wisdom because they knew we had a connection to the divine that they didn't have. There was a time where we went into the woods as women and we were bleeding together and on the full moon and doing the rituals and supporting each other and raising our children together and really being there for each other without all the things that are now happening, the backstabbing, the mistrust, the slut shaming, all the things that women do to each other. This is not our natural state of being. This is just societal conditioning and programming and pain that has been passed on. And if we never look at that, we pass that on. So by you doing the work, you're not only doing it for you, you're doing it for the women behind you that weren't able to do it. And you're doing it for all the generations to come. You ripple this out into the world by you just being the embodiment of what it means to be sensually embodied in this world. And it is a gift. It is a privilege that we now have the power to do that. There were so many years and it's still now happening. It's all crumbling. The new earth is already rising. There's no denying any longer. What's happening in Iran is a living example of the feminine rising and taking back their power, of raising their voice and saying enough is enough. It stops with us. It gives me goosebumps because we as women, if we come together, we are so powerful. We can change the world if we remember that, if we come back to the wisdom of our body. And there's also so much subconscious passed down fear of that, because we are so conditioned to live from our minds and everything has to make sense. And we were being burned in the past if we knew something that didn't make sense, but we just knew because we had the connection to the divine. And if you imagine you have the wisdom of your body, the magic of your body, of your feminine being, to receive life, to receive a soul through your womb into this world. Does this make sense? No, that's magic. That's no mind in the world, no logic, no computer can ever comprehend how we can receive a soul into our bodies. But this is the sacred portal between the spiritual world and the physical world. And if you connect back to that and you align your life to your cycle and to your wisdom, and you honor that and you don't push over it just because you're in the hustle mode and wounded masculine of doing all the time and not being able to rest, if you do the healing work that gets you back into remembrance of your sacred essence, you become so powerful, it's even beyond words. Imagine what you could do with the same energy that you can create life with if you put this into sharing your gifts, what kind of world we would live in. And that's why I'm so freaking passionate about sharing this with the women. And it's like this erupting volcano that wants to come out of me and tell every single woman that she's sacred and a divine goddess. And I think my St. Pedro ceremony really rippled that even further. I could feel with every cell of my being that our essence is so sacred. There's nothing shameful about being in your body, to be embodied, to be sensual. We've been like this for thousands of years until it has been taken away from us, until cultures have been destroyed, until they took away the dancing, the singing that connects us to nature, to something that's bigger than us. And only by practicing these ancient tools, we can come back into remembrance. And the Yoni egg is actually, it's not a new tool. I know now it's popping up because now we feel safe to share it, but it's been there for, I think it's 4,000 years that we've been used these techniques, the Yoni egg. So this is nothing modern made up. This is ancient, rooted wisdom that really can change your life. And if you remember the sacredness of your sensuality, you heal all the stories around that. You heal the shame, the fear, the holding back, the playing small. You step into your feminine power and you radiate that into the world. And if you know my story, I share a lot about it. I've been slut shamed before I even had sex. I was betrayed by women, backstabbed. I had so many painful experiences that I had to heal to be able to be the way I am. I know if you just follow me new and you see all these sensually embodied pictures on Instagram, I didn't grow up like this. I was hiding my magic for most of my life. I was hiding and blocking my pleasure because it didn't feel safe. It literally felt that I'm being hurt if I am in my body. I thought there's something wrong with me for feeling so much pleasure and for being in my body and for dancing away. It feels good. I established this pattern of living from my mind, and I was so afraid of being judged. I was so afraid of being hurt and backstabbed and betrayed that I just showed a tiny piece of who I truly was to the world. I even got hit in the face once by a woman when I was 13 on a party, and I didn't know why. But all the women were celebrating her when she went back, and I had no idea what the fuck just happened. I thought there's something wrong with me. I got taught by women coming up to me, I don't like when you talk to my boyfriend. You're a bitch, you take him away. When all I was just being me and talking to him. There was no intention of taking any man. But I learned through all these experiences that it's not safe to be sensually embodied. And only by remembering my truth and connecting back to the wisdom of my body, I felt the sacredness in it, and that it is safe, and that it was not mine to carry and to take on the projections of other women. So if you have any history with that, use the Yoni egg, come into the spaces where we come as women collectively, and we celebrate the gift of being sensually embodied. And this is what I'm most passionate, what makes me feel most alive, if we drop the stories and we come back into the true feminine power that is lingering within, but it can't turn into a volcano if you allow this spark to be watered down by your fear, by your, by living from your mind. You have to drop into your body. And I remember the first time I went into a Yoni Egg initiation. It wasn't really planned. I was living in Bali last year. It was like 1.5 years ago. And I just signed up. It's actually the woman that I'm now assisting the feminine leadership training in Costa Rica that you know from my podcast. She posted Moon Temple tonight at my house. And I read something about Yoni Egg, but I didn't think we would use it. I was just like, okay, I think I should be there. And I signed up and I went very spontaneously. It was close to where I was living. I went into her house with all these beautiful goddess women, and it was beautifully decorated. There were flowers and candles all around us. And we started with a dance and a meditation and a breathing, tantric breathing, and suddenly everyone took their bras off. And I was like, holy shit, what's happening? I had so much shame in my breasts. I was so disconnected from my breasts. It was already better at that point, but my whole life I thought there's something wrong with my breasts because they didn't look the way they looked in all these magazines and these Photoshop magazines, because there was so much shame in my puberty when I grew up, that it was so shameful when women showed their breasts, that I was like, oh my God, you cannot show it. And I even had numbness in my breasts. I didn't like to be touched. And then suddenly everyone was putting off their bras, and I was like, what is happening? I was being hit in the face by being sensual, and now we're like enjoying our pleasure. What's going on? And it was so different to everything I ever experienced to that point. But I had this voice in my head that said, just surrender to this. Because some part of me wanted to leave the room. Some part was looking at the door like, I want to leave. I want to run away. This is not comfortable. It was an edge, but this is where we grow, right? And it turned out to be one of the most healing experiences for me, to experience how sacred it is to come together as women, to experience this pleasure together. And then we went into a breast massage, and I looked around in a circle, and in the candlelight, I saw all these bodies with their back arching, and every woman was connected to her body, and it was so sensual and so beautiful. It almost felt like an ancient Egyptian temple where we were just being embodied and being worshipped, and there was a remembrance in my body. Excuse me. And that's when everything changed. That's when I realized, wow, all these lies that I believed and took on, and it stops now. And there was also this voice coming through saying, you will teach this one day. And I was like, give me a breather. I just quit my job to be a school teacher, and now I'm supposed to share about Yoni Eggs and breast massage. No. So I started sharing a little bit. I gave you a glimpse, right? But I was still holding back. And now I'm like, this is my purpose, to bring this remembrance back, to connect women back to the sacred sensuality, and to remember the power that lives within if we stop outsourcing and we come back into our feminine essence. So there's a little background story about my Yoni experience. And since then it has been weekly, I would say weekly tool in my life. I don't like to say weekly because sometimes there's times where she doesn't want to be entered. I also stopped using tampons. I love free bleeding, period panties. If you don't do that, start now. Your blood wants to flow. You don't want to stop the releasing process and rebirthing that happens every month. Stop using toxic bleached cotton tampons right now. If you don't, please. Even the cup didn't feel aligned anymore. My blood just wanted to flow. And I used the practice, but sometimes I don't like to be entered. And sometimes I can use it every day. So I don't like to say I'm doing it every week, because sometimes I don't for 2 and then I use it every day. So really listen to your body. If you connect to her, you know when the time is right, which stone to use. The more you connect to your intuition, goes for everything in life. You know what your body is longing for in food, in people, in places where you have to go, what the next step is. You learn to trust and to listen. So besides that, and you can feel this is like my biggest, I'm so passionate about this topic, that you remember the sacredness of your sensuality, of your sexuality, of your yoni, that you release any shame, any stories you have around her. Maybe someone ever made a comment on your hair, on your lips, whatever, that you release it right now. And sometimes we can't do that on our own because the pain is so real. And if we come into the circle with other women in person or in online, like the last sessions that I guided with women, when we come in front of a camera and we just dance connected to our bodies in front of the camera, and we allow ourselves to be seen in that and to see other women, this is exactly what connects us back to the remembrance. And on the 20th of November, like I said, I'm sharing this. This is a unique experience, a very sacred, safe space for you to explore that. I also guide a retreat in July in Austria. It's the second self-love retreat that I'm guiding, and it's the sensual edition. So we will do a Yoni Egg initiation in person. Send me a private message if you would like to join. And now I'm going to share a few things that I wrote down that also came up when I thought about the life-changing power of the Yoni Eggs that are an add-on. But the main reason why I do this is really this remembrance. And I want you to feel that in your body, to look at your life and see how it impacts you, how it keeps you small, and to choose if this is for you, to choose if it stops with you, if you choose to step back into your feminine power. So a few more things that rippled out through this practice is, and maybe you've noticed that I hear that all the time, that my face is changing, that my glow is different, that I have this natural feminine glow around me, and that I look younger than I did when I left Germany over a year ago. That if you allow your sexual energy, which is your creativity, your life force energy, your aliveness, if you allow it to flow again, you look younger, because this is your life force, and it helps you radiating from within to magnetize your desires. So it's almost like a reverse aging that can have the side effect of this practice. You can also increase your sensitivity. So especially if you're used to work with a vibrator, if you're used to just masturbate with the clitoral orgasm, you can have a lot of numbness in your yoni. And with the Yoni Egg, you can bring the sensitivity back. So even with intercourse, you can feel so much pleasure. The first time I had sex after being celibate, after I didn't have sex for 22 months, and I worked with the Yoni Egg, and the first time I was entered, I was like, oh my God, I never experienced so much pleasure in my life by just intercourse, because sometimes we can feel numbness there, we can feel disconnection, and you can really increase your pleasure capacity by working with the Yoni Egg. It will grow through the roof if you connect back with that. Also, your creativity will increase. You will connect to your feminine energy. You can release emotions. So it's also not always a pleasurable experience. Sometimes it means you're crying, you're shaking, you're releasing stuff. But that also brings back your aliveness, because that's what's blocking it in the first place. You can also heal stored trauma. You can increase your self-love and the way you feel around your yoni, your sensuality, and your body. You can connect back to your womb. You can unleash your wild woman, your dark feminine that has deep desires. You're not playing the good girl anymore. You express your voice. It really ripples out into the world. It helps you to connect back to your power and also to increase your self-confidence. If you're connected to your sexuality without shame, number one tip to increase your sexuality. So this is what I wanted to share on this topic. Come and join us if you feel this is calling your name. I love to hold these spaces. Experience it. And I give a 20% discount to my podcast listeners. So if you want to join, send me a private message and I send you the code so you can join us and just get a glimpse of this magic and see it, feel how it can change your life. Also join the podcast giveaway. Would mean the world to me to read how my work, how the podcast has impacted you. And other than that, I see you next week. So much love from Morea.